Hey, everybody, welcome to Breakfast All Day. It's Oscar Monday, and we didn't want to let all this sit until Friday. So, Christy's here, Alonso's here to recap the evening. What are your thoughts, Christy?
So it's just fascinating because we knew it was going to be a really bizarre ceremony during a really bizarre year. And I so appreciate the fact that they took so many risks. I mean, a lot of it was out of sheer necessity, from the setting of it at Union Station as like a supper club kind of thing to the way they presented various awards. I really liked the ambition of that and the daring of the risk. And the show for many years has seemed mired and stodgy. And off the top, you knew you were in Steven Soderbergh's hands. Like it began with that beautiful long tracking shot following Regina King into Union Station with like the glitzy titles of all of the A-listers who were going to present. And it had that kind of gauzy look that so many Soderbergh movies have. And it was a like an Ocean's film. Like Regina King was had like a sly smile, like she was about to pull off some heist. And I
A
kind of liked
caper.
that. I really dug it. I thought, oh, this is gonna be cool. And the fact that they didn't do traditional introductions of nominees. They gave little fun facts and little details. I liked a lot of those changes. Um, and then you have like best director halfway through, and
Yeah.
then you have best picture before actor and actress, and that was strange just from a pacing perspective. But then you know why they did that. Clearly they
Yes.
wanted to end the night with the idea that Chadwick Boseman was going to win best actor, and then Joaquin Phoenix said the words Anthony Hopkins, and then it just ended, and it was like a weird deflation. I don't know, what did you think?
Yeah. The ending obviously had issues, and again, it was talk about taking a risk that the whole gamble of the structure of the evening depended upon Chadwick Boseman winning. And you never assume that the obvious thing is going to happen, because so often it doesn't. Like I somebody pointed out, there was some year where like Barbara Streisand presented best director to not a woman,
Mm.
because like whoever didn't win. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I for the most part I really like it. I thought it was exciting that they were shaking things up. And I was doing a live stream last night with the folks from Untitled Iffy Dre and Alonso Project, and at one point I was like, this reminds me of that Lars von Trier movie, The Five Obstructions,
Oh, I've not seen
where
that.
it's like he's making a film with like his mentor, this other Danish filmmaker, and basically like has this other filmmaker remake a short film of his several times. But every time he does it, there's five obstructions. There's like, okay, no shot can last longer than 3 seconds, and you have to film it in Cuba, and everything gets to be close up. Like there's all these, every time he has to redo it with these limitations in mind, and he has to turn those limitations into like a prompt to do something interesting and exciting. And I felt that's what Soderbergh was doing. He had was saddled with all of the COVID stuff, and not being able to do it inside of the big theater. And I felt like he turned all of those challenges into opportunities.
Hmm.
And for the most part, they worked. I didn't mind not seeing clips from everything, because you know
Right.
what, this was a year where people could have watched all of these movies if they'd wanted to. They would have, you'd have to spend some money, sure, but like it wasn't like, oh, I live in this town in Indiana and these movies never come here. No, if you have Wi-Fi, and granted not everybody does, you could watch all those movies. And if
Every
you want to
single
see,
one of them was streaming, and a lot of them were on big places like Netflix and Hulu.
exactly, and
Mhm.
Amazon Prime. And if you wanted to see clips from the movies, they all had trailers on YouTube. So like to take the clips out of it and to instead have the personal histories, I thought was great, because unless you are like Michael Douglas or Sofia Coppola, like you got into the industry out of some childhood love of film,
Mhm.
and you worked some shitty jobs on your way to becoming a nominated for whatever. And so those stories I thought were really interesting, and they kind of provided a cool insight as to who these people were and why they do what they do. So yeah, I thought I cheer much of what Soderbergh brought to the table. I don't think I'm sure you're with me on this one. As adults, there's never been an Oscar show that's aired without somebody going, ugh, worst Oscar show ever.
I
You know?
mean, yeah, that's true. And well, based on what the ratings were, there weren't even a whole lot of people watching to call it the worst Oscar show
True.
ever.
But,
Ratings were
but
down 58%.
no.
So this is the absolute lowest rated Oscar show ever. down 58% from last year, which was the previous
Right.
lowest rated Oscar show ever. And that's for
But
a multitude of reasons.
But to be fair, yeah, like if you look at the dip in this year's Grammys or this
Right.
year's Emmys,
All
all
of them.
award shows have taken that
They're
hit.
all
And,
down.
and the Hollywood Reporter immediately posted that piece last night. Nomadland is the lowest grossing Best Picture winner ever.
No one mentioned
Duh.
the fucking movies.
Any
No one.
movie, any movie that had won last night would be the lowest grossing Best Picture winner ever. Like that was,
Tenet's the highest grossing one.
yeah, like that was a Mad Lib waiting to happen.
That's
So,
really stupid. I can't
yeah.
believe that. So let's talk about some of the speeches, if we
Mm,
could, because one thing that did not happen last night was that nobody got played off.
yeah,
People had
that was nice.
time to talk, and a lot of folks often complain about how they're so turned off by Hollywood and they're so turned off by the Academy Awards because they're too political.
Mm,
And there was some of that last night, certainly, but there
yeah.
wasn't like a massive proliferation of it. Trayvon Free, who won for best live action short, talked very pointedly about how many people die every day at the hands of police officers. But his movie is also about that.
Right.
That's also that's relevant. But the weird thing, and I know you have some thoughts on this, was when Tyler Perry
Hmm.
got his humanitarian award, and everyone's clapping for him for his largesse and his big heart, and he's got the crowd going, talking about reject hate and love everybody, whether they're black or white or transgender or police officers, and everyone's like clapping, 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 and then they stop.
Well, okay, because here's the thing.
Good try, Tyler Perry.
Yeah, Dave and I were talking about this morning, and it's like, Tyler Perry comes from a Southern evangelical tradition, and the idea of loving your enemies, especially your enemies, is a big thing. If you want to look at it through a biblical perspective, but it is incredibly disingenuous to rattle off a line of people that he goes, I don't. This is the quote. He goes, I don't hate Asian Americans, I don't hate police officers, I don't hate LGBTQ people. Okay, let's put the brakes on that,
Mm.
because people who hate Asian Americans and LGBTQ people and people who hate police officers are coming at it from very different perspectives. People who hate Asian Americans and LGBTQ people are just fucking asshole racists and bigots. People who hate police officers might have an issue with the fact that so many innocent people, unarmed people, get gunned down by the police every year with no repercussions. So to whoosh all those things
Yeah.
together is like, I call bullshit, Tyler Perry.
Yeah, it was a gross oversimplification. It was a false equivalency.
Yeah.
And I see where he's coming from to try to create some feeling of healing and an elusive sense of centrism
Oh, well, yeah, he
and
literally said, "Let's come to the center." I was
the
like,
middle, or something like that.
yeah, but yeah, basically it was a big,
Yeah.
it was a billionaire telling us that we all needed to be centrists, and who doesn't want to see that?
Yeah, he has the luxury of saying that now since he
Mm,
is an empire unto himself. Um, let's talk about what won, because there were some
yeah.
shocking moments. I mean, I think we called a lot of it. We figured that Nomadland and Chloe Zhao would win.
Hmm.
It's interesting because of the way the whole thing ended so abruptly really overshadows how historic that is and how important that is and how really cool, because Nomadland is not in any way your traditional kind of best picture winner unless you look at it from just the most fundamental perspective of it being like exploring the American dream. I mean, in that regard, it is, but it's small and quiet and directed by an Asian woman. That was
Right.
all cool and historic. Daniel, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, I've been seeing that argument that like not ending with Best Picture somehow diminishes that achievement. Like, I don't think so. I mean, like maybe in the moment, but I think historically speaking, that's always going to be there, and I think the conversation is going to keep taking place about what a big deal that was. So, I mean, yes, if it had been in the traditional place, that would have been the thing that we left off with. But it still won. It still
Oh
happened.
yeah. Oh, it's still important. It's just it was a weird kind of like anticlimactic letdown.
I
So
think if Bozeman had won,
sure.
then I think we would all be like, "Oh, what a great way to to end this show!" And
Right.
such a
It was a
movie.
gamble.
Yeah, and so like, sorry, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah. I mean, so in supporting, like we figured that Daniel Kaluuya would win and that Yoon Jung would win, and that was
Mm.
great and expected. And her speech was kind of a hoot, giving people shit for pronouncing her name wrong and teasing Brad Pitt. And I mean, she that was one of the lovelier moments. But it's fascinating to think that in the victories for Frances McDormand in Nomadland and Anthony Hopkins in the father, that they were underdogs in this context, given their stature, given their esteem, and their longevity. Like, to think that those are both shocking moments when they both won, because I think everyone figured Chadwick Boseman, of course,
Hmm.
posthumously, and then Best Actress could have gone a lot of ways,
Yeah, that
but I
there
didn't
are.
think it would go Frances McDormand's way.
Yeah, and I think the reason those two were both maybe considered outliers was because they're both previous winners. I mean,
Sure,
this is McDormand's third,
sure.
and
And
I think
Hopkins second.
Hopkins second,
Yeah.
and I think that for a lot of people, like the father, kind of, I think it's probably the least seen of all of the best pictures because it isn't streaming except for it's like PVOD. It still costs $20 to rent it,
Mhm.
and a lot of people hear what it's about and go, oh no,
Right.
not this year. Like I
Sure.
deal with that this year. And it's a great movie and it's a great performance, and I'm thrilled that it got what it got. and
Sure.
and yes, while I think on the one hand I understand the whole thing of like this was the last chance to honor Chadwick Boseman,
Mhm.
and they decided not to do that. At the same time, it's like Hopkins' performance in The Father is, I think, really great, and for me the
Yeah.
best of those five. And the other narrative I've been seeing is like, oh, I can't believe the Academy, disrespected Bozeman like that. And it's like, again, these
Why
guys,
was it disrespect?
they don't all sit in a room and decide, okay, this guy wins and fuck that guy.
No.
There's like everybody's mailing in their ballot for a million different reasons. Did Chadwick Boseman lose by one ballot? We'll never know. Would Chadwick Boseman have won in the supporting category for either Ma Rainey or Da Five
Mm.
Bloods? We'll never
That's
know.
a good point too. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's like 8,000 people who are voting. It's not like a hive mind. It's it's
yeah,
it's it's really interesting. So you had all that, and that was kind of exciting at the end. Emerald Fennell won for original
original
screenplay for
screenplay.
Promising Young Woman, and then adapted was I'm blanking. It
Uh,
wasn't Borat. It wasn't. Was it The Father? It was The Father.
it was The Father. Yeah,
Yes, we talked about that too. How we would like to have seen that win because it's such a complicated structure, and
absolutely.
so tricky. So that was nice. And then foreign language was another round, which we see the news today that Leonardo DiCaprio's production company has the rights to do an English language remake. I mean, watching it, you can feel, oh, clearly someone's going to redo this in English in the United States, and they're going to fuck it all up and make it wacky. And
Well,
so
as somebody on
hopefully he
Twitter said,
won't.
hopefully this will die on the vine like the Tony Erdman remake.
Oh, right. There's going to be a ton.
Uh,
Yeah,
for
so
a lot,
so
like, yeah, I go back to Bong Joon Ho last year, the 1 inch hurdle of subtitles. Like, just watch this fucking movie. This
it's
movie
so
is great
great.
as is. It doesn't need to be Americanized. Although, again, as I did a lot of Twitter reading this morning, somebody else on, I should write all these down, but somebody was saying, if you're going to do an American remake of this movie, it would be interesting to dig into like American men's relationships with liquor, or with alcohol. That's a specific thing that this movie could bring to the table that isn't
Mhm.
already there in this great film, from another country. But yeah, yeah. And,
Yeah,
and one of the great speeches I think of last night was Thomas Vinterberg's.
it was quite lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot for him,
Mm.
certainly. And then of course the movie that I really, really wanted to talk about, which hopefully we will this week, is the best documentary winner. The fucking octopus movie won. And I got so many people on Twitter saying to me, oh, Christy, I thought of you immediately when the octopus movie won, because it's awful. Anyway, so that's again expected. You and I had other things we would have liked to have seen win more, like
Mm.
Collective.
Yeah.
But it's funny though. I see again collectively responses to the octopus movie winning. My octopus teacher, everyone's like, "This is clearly the worst one of the five. How did it even get in there?" So I don't know who's voting for the damn octopus movie, but
Well, I think there was, okay. This one I'm going to quote because I
okay,
keep talking about random people, but this
okay,
was an actual, like, somebody said this and I thought it was very funny.
okay.
Um, the notion that basically, if you, oh yeah, here we go. Eric Hines writes, if you ask 9,000 people to choose among five titles most of them haven't seen, and one of them is that nature movie somebody said they should watch, and it's called, oh, I don't know, My Midlife Crisis Mentor, the Manatee or whatever, it is going to win the Oscar every time. I'm sorry.
Sam Adams had a really great tweet last night about how in the sequel he falls in love with an eel and it's called That's a Moray.
Amore.
Justin
Can,
Chang worthy pun.
Can we talk about the fact that Mank now has more Oscars than Citizen Kane?
That's really interesting. Yeah, it won for cinematography and production design. That's
Yeah,
true.
and the cinematography. I mean, for one thing, like that you're making a movie that is this Valentine to 1930s, 1940s Hollywood, and you shoot it in anamorphic. Like,
Interesting.
and Greg Toland, who revolutionized cinematography with the deep focus that he did in Citizen Kane, did not win an Oscar.
That's really interesting, but the copy did.
Yeah.
That's really funny. You mentioned Bong Joon-ho a little bit ago. One of my favorite moments of the evening was Director Bong speaking in Korean about each of the Best Picture nominees, and his wonderful interpreter, Sharon
Yes.
Choi, who we all enjoyed so much during last year's award season. She was right there to interpret his work and his words rather into English. And then when it came time to announce the winner, she got to say in Korean, and the Oscar goes to, and then he got to say the name of the winner. So that was a nice little poignant flip there that took place.
Yeah, Marley Matlin got to announce
Right.
a winner in ASL before it was spoken aloud. Although I was thinking though that given that one of the major films of the evening was The Sound of Metal, I was surprised they didn't do more ASL in the evening, because this is like one of the major nominees this year is a film about hearing loss and about people
Yeah.
learning to communicate. So
Yeah, I didn't see Paul Raci signing at any point. Maybe he did when the cameras weren't on or whatever, but yeah. And
well, he
that of
did
course
this a lot,
won, and then that of course won sound, which of course it had to. That was
Sure.
the only sure thing of last night. And then the fact that Riz Ahmed gave out the award was like a good gamble that paid off. This is an example of a gamble that paid
Yes.
off. Let us talk about, was there anything shocking or dismaying for you that won last night?
Not really. I mean, I think what was more interesting was that looking at it in the the gestalt of it all is that just about all of the major nominees walked away with something. I think, with the exception of Trial of the Chicago
Right.
Eight, all
7.
of seven. I keep doing that. All of the Best Picture nominees got something. Judas and the Black Messiah got a supporting actress or sorry, supporting actor and hair and makeup and something else. I don't know. And then, but like Mank picked up a couple, and, like yeah, I know a lot of people were
Wait,
thinking Carrie
Ma
Mulligan.
Rainey got hair and makeup. Ma Rainey
Right.
got costume and hair and makeup.
That's it. Costume and hair and makeup, and Judas got song and best supporting actor. That's it.
Right.
I don't have it in front of me.
It's okay. And then
Um,
Soul got animated as we all expected, but
and
also got
score.
score.
Yeah.
They get that great Jean Baptiste speech last night. He did all the
Mhm.
jazz portions of the score. Um, yeah, it was strange. Let's talk about fashion, if we could, for a second. Who did you think looked great last night, or who didn't look great?
I loved Coleman Domingo's red carpet outfit,
The
the
hot
pink on
pink.
pink on pink. That was like,
Uh-huh.
that's a fashion statement, and
Uh-huh.
it would probably not look nearly as good on most people who are not named Coleman Domingo, but boy, he carried that off like just that one blew me away. There was a lot of really interesting men's fashion. Like, people really decided to mix it up this year. Like, Lakeith Stanfield in the
Mhm.
YSL pantsuit was really great.
Amazing. Like
Yeah,
again, like he can pull it off. He's just like the coolest, chicest guy in the room at all times. Like he could take
totally.
a risk like that and pull that off, and that was amazing.
Now,
Daniel Kaluuya looked great.
yeah, I went back and forth on Leslie Odom Jr. just because, in the same way
Ah,
that you're never supposed to wear white to a wedding because you don't want to upstage the bride. Should
right.
you wear gold to the Oscars?
Yeah. I
Is
mean,
that just too on? I don't know.
I don't know. He probably figured he wasn't going to win, right? I mean, like, I don't think that he was ever in any way considered
He
like a
was up for
serious
two,
contender.
so
That's
but
true for song. That's
yeah.
true for song also.
And,
Yeah.
and here's the thing. Again, Leslie Odom Jr. makes that thing work because he's Leslie Odom Jr.
Yes, he's a beautiful man.
But just like conceptually, I'm not sure if I'm wild about that. I liked Chloe Zhao's look. It was very appropriate to the film, I think,
With
and
sneakers.
sneakers, and just like it was unshowy, but at the same time very elegant.
Mhm.
Frances McDormand, I guess, was not wearing a jean jacket, so hooray.
Yes.
She's made it very clear what she thinks about like dressing up for this stuff. So, I'm trying to think what other outfits sort of stood out to me.
Regina King looked amazing
Regina
with
King
this
looked
like
amazing.
light blue, like form fitting with like the
Oh,
butterfly wings.
Viola Davis.
Oh yeah.
That white dress reminded me. Have you ever seen the picture of when Keith Haring body painted Grace Jones?
No.
He like covers her in white paint, but in very sort of Keith Haring kind of lines and squiggles and stuff.
Okay.
That dress, the way that it was put together, reminded me of that. And Angela Bassett's dress too was great.
Oh, she looked amazing. She
Yeah.
does not age.
No.
When Nick
Oh,
came in and was like, "Who was that?" I said, "Angela Bassett." And so she looks amazing. Like she's like in her 60s. And he goes, "She looks like she's in her 20s." I'm like, "What is your secret, Angela Bassett?" Because
yeah.
it's very badass.
I was this far from her at a Marvel premiere once. And it was just like, it's just one of those people that just give off like, that radiation of just, what did you think about the in memoriam thing? Because that was sort of controversial with people as well.
So what's weird with that was that it went to the beat of the song,
Yeah.
right? It's Stevie Wonder as,
Hmm.
and they went, so like if you had the benefit of being included in the slower parts in the verses, they lingered on you a little longer, but then the cadence picks up when the chorus and it gets faster. And if you're there, this is the tempo. And
Right.
so that's why it flashed through those names, and that was really, and then it slowed down,
Mhm.
when it got to the slower part again.
I hadn't thought about it that way. I mean, again, I think that was sort of a challenge they had to deal with, which was like, this is the longest probably we've ever gone between Oscar shows.
Hmm.
It's been 14 months, and like, we're coming out of a pandemic. There are a lot of people who died for one reason or other, and and I like the fact that they found a song that's sort of melancholy, but not like, Sarah McLachlan, telling you about
Right.
the poor doggies in the cages. Um, and so I felt and I thought that at least the pace meant they were including more people, because there's such I think this year the only complaints I heard, like Adam Schlesinger was a big um
Omission.
omission, and they left out
Mm.
Robert Joy, who was in Desperate Seeking Susan, Radio Days, a bunch of stuff, and he's a character actor who died of COVID actually last year.
Oh.
But like, that people complained about like Naya Rivera and Jessica Walter, and it's like, there's really more
Oh.
TV folks. Like I that one that those could go either way maybe, but they packed in a lot of people. Like there were a couple of names I threw out that I thought, I wonder if they're going to remember, and they did. So I
It,
overall I thought it was pretty effective.
it was too fast for me to even realize who they'd left out.
Uh,
I want to talk about Questlove. I want to
yes.
talk about what a cool, different vibe that created in the bumps in and out of commercials, and the fact that he has his own movie to tease, Summer of Soul, which looks
Hmm.
amazing. I hear all good things.
Yeah.
But some of he has like incredible encyclopedic knowledge of every possible genre of music. So it was a really eclectic mix. It was everything from like 9 to 5 to Radiohead to what is the song that they play at the New Beverly that's like a bump between
Oh,
movies.
the
Yeah,
I don't know what that's called, but yes.
Todd Gilchrist knew what it was called. And there's like a swirly kind of graphic
Yeah.
that goes behind it, like, please stay tuned for our feature. I think they use it in Grindhouse too.
I was gonna say, you've seen it in Grindhouse. It was a staple of my '70s childhood as a moviegoer. I loved when he played the Electric Company theme when Rita Moreno came out,
That was
because
inspired.
it opens with her screaming, "Hey, you guys!" And if you know her career, the G in her EGOT is for the Electric Company
That is amazing. That was a good deep cut from him. But then like the whole thing with the trivia, which he also engineered,
album.
resulted in Glenn Close shouting, "That's the butt!" and like getting up and twerking. It just like made the pacing grind to a halt. Like at a point where the show was about to wrap up, and all of a sudden, like, oh, we're taking time now to do this music trivia bit. I don't
I
know.
have a suspicion there was some reason that they had to do that. Like, I think that was the thing they sort of had in their quiver of like, okay, X, Y, and Z needs to happen backstage. And so this will give us five
I
minutes to
see.
like shift that around. I'm purely guessing. I have no idea if this is the
It
case.
felt like filler. It did.
It was filler, but it was fun filler. And like, I love how game Glenn Close was. My one thing was like, oh God, don't bug Andra Day. They haven't gotten to her category yet. She's still like, they're everybody. Before they get to your category, you're freaking out, and then after they get to your category, either you've won or now you can drink. And so like I was just like, oh, okay, give her a break. And she is elsewhere, but she played along and she was fun. And I thought the Glenn Close bit was funny, and that it allowed her to say, well, my friends at the Academy neglected to nominate it. you know.
Ah, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, Glenn Close, eight nominations now, and
Um,
she once again goes home empty-handed for playing Mama.
well,
And then
I had a friend pointed out if Amanda Seyfried had beaten her last night, had won Best Supporting Actress, Glenn Close would have lost to all three generations of Mamma Mia. She's already
Meryl,
lost an Oscar to Cher and to Meryl.
that is amazing. That's a really good tidbit. Also, best original song did not go to Husavik.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't love the Eurovision movie, but I will say that's the one song in a movie of the five that I remember having been in that movie. Like the rest of them, I think either pop up in the closing credits or like I don't have any memory of them being part of that film. But like, you know, they left a lot of jingle jangle on the table, and those songs I remember as part of that film, you know.
The rules for the music branch are so weird. Like
Mhm.
the rules for so many Oscar branches, but like the music branch in particular, as far as like, if any piece of a song has been used anyplace else before, it doesn't
Right.
qualify. So who
Did Ya
knows?
Ya Ding Dong qualify?
Uh,
Was
Maybe
that
Ya
written
Ya
for the
Ding
film or
Dong is a
not?
real song that exists in the
Oh,
world that
could
couldn't
be.
be.
Yeah.
I think Volcano Man's a better song than Husavik.
Mm.
That's just me. It gets
Yeah,
stuck in my head.
they shortlisted the John Legend song from Jingle Jangle, which was
Yeah.
fine, but I thought This Day was a much better song. But none of them got nominated, so who cares?
No. Anyway, I am glad that
Ooh.
I watched it. It was
And
only
the
three
Barb and
hours.
Star song didn't get nominated, and
All
it
those
qualified.
songs, and again, and they're used really well in the movie. I think that's part
Yeah,
of their criterion is like how do you use it in the movie. But then a lot of the songs, as you point out, are just over the credits.
right.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, it was only like 3 hours long. Like they got in and
Yeah.
out because they didn't have clips for every single thing. They got in and out relatively fast. So
And they didn't do any of the musical numbers. They did all those during the red carpet. They pre-taped them and ran them during the red carpet show. So
yeah.
that also kept the running time low. And they didn't have the shitty forced banter, which was, like Bruce
Mhm.
Valanche did not have to come up with like quippy things for John Cena and, The Rock to say at the podium. Like we didn't do that this year, and I didn't miss it, frankly.
And there wasn't like the 10-minute sticky, Billy Crystal performance of all of the
Mm.
best picture. Like there wasn't that kind of staple of the show either. And I hope that they keep some of those cool changes.
I love that they did the Gene Herschel Award because like all those cool awards where like they'll give the governor's award or whatever to like Agnes Varda or Charles Burnett or
Mm,
Jackie Chan, that got punted to some dinner, and it gets like a brief mention on the show. And that's like, if
yeah.
we're going to talk about cinema history, like let's talk about those guys. So to devote that time to the motion picture home, I thought was very moving given
Yes.
all the things that have been going on this year. And it is a really important nonprofit here for people in the industry because so many people come to the end of their careers and they ain't rich, and that gives them a place to spend their twilight years.
The motion picture home in Woodland Hills off the Valley Circle Boulevard exit off the 101, my former exit off the 101 as a child.
There you go.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we watched,
Yeah.
and you guys have to let us know what you think. Did you watch? Were you among the 9.8 million people who watched? And if you did watch, did you care? And are you happy? Let us know.
Will we remember who won next month?
That's I never do. Like, who wants supporting actress? I don't know. Maybe I'll remember this when you're done. Who knows? It's a sieve, my brain.
Mm.
But let us know what you thought. Also, if you haven't already, guys, since it is Monday, there is a new Marvel Monday episode
Yep.
out. Nick and I talk about Ant-Man this week, which is very fun. So please join us there as well. And we'll be back on Friday with our normal reviews and news. And for Patreon, we're going to do the first, 3
Yeah,
episodes
they're
of
dropping 3
Handmaid's
episodes
Tale?
this week.
I
Yeah.
gotta watch. So yeah, the first 3 episodes of Handmaid's Tale are back on our Patreon. So please come on back in a few days and join us then.
Yes. So follow us at BFest All Day on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon page. That's where the only place you're going to get our Handmaid's Tale recaps, and that's at patreon.com/BFestAllDay. Thanks for listening, and we'll check you next time. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.